When the internet is mentioned, clouds usually come to mind. We use internet-based cloud computing services to email someone. Or, if we have a website, we host it not on our home computer but on a remote server that provides this service. Since the location of that remote server is not where we are, we say that it is in the cloud, which is an abstract concept. The irony is this: when we send an email or visit a website, communication with others occurs below, not above. Including this video you are watching right now, as of the beginning of 2020, 99% of all international communication on the internet is provided by 468 cable lines laid under the sea. That's all. 468 wires. Of course, the length of some of them is only 131 kilometers, and the length of some of them is 20,000 kilometers. However, if you cut one of those cables, the internet of a whole continent can go. As a matter of fact, such an event happened in 2018. There is a cable of approximately 17,000 kilometers, starting from France and reaching all the way to South Africa. This cable connects 22 countries on the western coasts of Europe and Africa to each other and to the internet. Thanks to a trawler fishing boat, the internet of 10 countries was cut off when the cable was accidentally cut off. The guys have officially given a new perspective to the concept of internet trolling. That's not the only problem with cables. How could it be? We are talking about 1.2 million kilometers long cables in total. Every year, around 200 large and small problems are encountered. Sometimes ships anchor on the cable by mistake, and sometimes these cables can be damaged due to earthquakes or underwater volcanic eruptions. In 2007, sea pirates stole 11 kilometers of a cable connecting Thailand, Vietnam and Hong Kong and sold it as scrap of 100 tons. The guys have officially brought a new perspective to the concept of internet piracy. And when sharks get hungry, they may want to taste the internet cable. These images are from another event, but it was discovered for the first time off the Canary Islands that sharks might want to eat the cables. According to this book examining communication networks under the sea, engineers who laid cables in that area in 1985 soon realized that there was a short circuit in the electrical cable going to the signal booster. When they examined it to understand how it came into contact with the water, they were surprised to find shark teeth on the cable. Rodents such as squirrels were known to haunt the cables on land, but the sharks had nothing to do with the cables. Marine biologists were even more baffled, because until then it was unknown that sharks could go 1 kilometer deep in water. As a result of the tests carried out by the biologists in the water tanks, it was revealed that not the cables, but the electric field created by the current passing through them, and they are affected by such areas in finding their own prey. Cable manufacturers also had to reconsider their insulation materials to be able to destroy this area and protect their cables. When we think of internet cable, we think of cables as thick as one finger, which we use in our homes. This is an Ethernet cable. It transmits data electrically. It is a cheap method, but it is not preferred over long distances as there is a lot of signal loss in such cables. There is also wireless internet. In this method, data is transmitted by radio waves. So what can be done to send huge amounts of data without losing signal for thousands of kilometers and most importantly very quickly? Look, I'm saying very fast. What goes faster than electricity? Light, of course. In order to carry data at the speed of light, it is necessary to carry them with light, and fiber optic cables are used for this. There may be such cables in homes, especially for connecting music systems. If you have one, you can connect one end and see the red laser light coming from the other end. Because there is glass inside these cables, you know. When it sends light into the glass at a certain angle, it reflects and moves forward. By sending light at different angles into the same cable, different data can be carried at the same time. Hundreds of terabits of information. In other words, millions of videos like the one you are watching can be transmitted simultaneously. Moreover, the thickness of these optical fibers is as much as a human hair. Of course, You can't lay them under the ocean naked, even anchovies eat them with pleasure, let alone sharks. Of course, you will now say that do anchovies live in the ocean? Of course, there is Australian anchovy, there is Argentine anchovy living in the Pacific Ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean. Anyway, so that nothing happens to these hair-thin cables, they are surrounded by 7 separate layers consisting of different materials such as gel, plastic, steel, copper, polycarbonate, aluminum, and polyethylene. After the cables are produced in this way, they are wound on large reels because they are very long. Very large reels. These reels are loaded onto ships that will lay them under the sea in about a month. Because they are indeed being lowered to the ocean floor. If the bottom is soft, the cable is buried in the ground thousands of meters underwater at some points. If the base is hard, it is left on the bottom. Of course, it is necessary to make very careful calculations about how nervous he should be. In addition, since there are coral reefs or shipwrecks in some places, plans are made months in advance so that the cable does not become entangled there. It is truly astonishing to learn that such hard work is done for the internet we use every day. Thanks to these studies, new discoveries can be made, as in the shark example I gave at the beginning of the video. I will talk about a very important geographical discovery made in this way shortly. So why all these troubles and costs? Because being on the internet offers advantages to everyone, from large companies to small personal entrepreneurs. Did anything catch your attention in this cable network that carries 99% of the internet? One of the places on the map where these cables are most concentrated is the Atlantic Ocean. So what's on the bottom of that ocean? Mountain ranges from the North Pole to Bouvet Island in the southern hemisphere. Yes, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, there are mountains under the water that stretch along the entire floor. In fact, the high parts of some of them rise to the surface of the water in places and form islands in the ocean. Iceland is one of these islands. We know all this geographical information very well now. In fact, when laying cables under the ocean, using this information, how many cables will be needed and how they will be passed over submarine mountains at different heights are always calculated accordingly. We know this because these sub-ocean mountain ranges were discovered in 1872, again during a transatlantic cable laying attempt. Even back then, this very difficult job could be done. You must have heard of the person who first implemented the idea of laying cables underwater. Samuel Morse, the person who gave his name to the Morse code used in telegrams. For the first time in 1842, he tested that a telegraph message could be transmitted safely by laying a 3 kilometers long cable under the sea in New York. Only 16 years later, the first cable, thousands of kilometers long, connected Europe and the Americas. In 1858, the first telegraph message to cross the Atlantic Ocean reached America. The message was sent in 17 hours and 40 minutes because even a word took a few minutes to be written and delivered. Today, trillions of words of information can be sent every second through cables as thin as a hair. For example, 208 terabits of information per second can be transported from the 6,605 kilometers long Maria cable, one of the last cables laid in 2018. But this should not be forgotten either. Before that first cable was laid, it took a month for any information to reach the Americas from Europe, depending on the speed of the winds and the ships. One more month to reply to that message. 163 years ago, people could only communicate at this speed. Humanity's efforts to speed up communication have laid millions of kilometers of cables under the waters in just 2 human lifetimes. While those cables were being laid, mountain ranges long enough to encircle half the world were discovered under the oceans. Information was gained about life thousands of meters deep in the sea, and finally telegraph cables turned into fiber optic internet cables. What's next? Bringing the internet to Earth orbiting satellites. If the speed of these satellites one day exceeds the speed of the cables, that day we will be able to talk about the internet in the clouds for real. Until then, keep it in mind. The websites you visit or the emails you send or the videos you watch come not from the clouds but from below, thousands of meters deep in the oceans.